Hey everybody, how is everybody doing? I am going to tell you guys a really difficult story for me. And this was an event that happened 2 years ago now. I can barely believe that 2 years have already gone by. And I just want to explain a situation that happened, and I just want to get it off my chest because I was betrayed and I was framed, and I'm only getting over it now. And I'm a real easygoing, free spirited, giving type person. So I would never have expected to get framed, to be framed to the extent that I was by the people that did it. I never could have guessed it. But this is the thing that happens when you're a child of God and you're a spiritual being. Sometimes really, really, really bad things happen. And it's not because you're a victim. It's not because you are broken. It's not because you're weak. Actually, sometimes God makes it so that you, first of all, He shows you who is really there to support you and who is there to tear you down. And He showed me pretty clearly who was there for me unconditionally and who wasn't. And so there's a couple lessons within this that I need to share with you guys, because it can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone that mixes and mingles with the wrong people. It can really happen to any. I mean, you're eligible to be betrayed. So I just want to tell you what happened, and I just want to say again that I'm not a victim at all. I don't dig the victim mentality. I never have. I think that it's really sad when people victimize themselves because they are mentally making it more difficult for themselves, and they're mentally creating a prison that's not really there. So, I was working full time. I had 3 jobs at the time, and I was coming home from one of my jobs, and I was commuting home in a bunch of traffic, and I texted my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, I was like so stressed out, and I was like crying on my way home from work, and I would always get stuck in traffic, so my commute would end up being like 2 to 3 hours one way. And I was just, it was a hot summer day. I was sweating, stressed out, tired, hungry, all of those things. And just a little down about the whole thing. Like, when you're overworked, you can kind of get down really easy. So I texted my boyfriend and I was like, I'm so stressed out, like I just want to die, like all this. But it wasn't coming from like a place of like actual, like I wasn't actually having those thoughts of, like, I didn't actually have suicidal thoughts or like thoughts of death or anything of the sort. I never, I mean, I've been depressed before, but it was never so bad that I would actually act on it. So my boyfriend at the time was like really dumb, and he, like I told you guys before, he lied to me. He ended up having a kid. He ended up having a kid with a literal prostitute. So it was just a real dirty mess anyways. And he was living with me. It was just a really bad scene, okay? So I'm on my way home, stuck in traffic, you know. It's like 7 p.m. or something like that. And so I get home, and there's a cop standing on the front steps. And apparently my boyfriend was worried. So he contacted my mom, and my mom contacted the police and told them that I was suicidal, and that I was texting crazy things. So they took it out of context and blew it up, and then they flipped it and made it look like I was about to kill myself, you know? And she's so evil, and she's so messed up that she 302'd me, which means the cops arrest you and take you to the psych ward. Now keep in mind, I was a professional social worker at the time, and I still am. So I didn't lose my job from this mess, but I very well could have if the situation was different, and if these people that I work for didn't have my back at the time. I could have been fired for missing work from being framed into a 302. So she was so evil, and she went so far as to lie to the cops and lie to these social worker people. And she said that I was on pharmaceuticals. She said that I was bipolar and that I was on meds, which neither were true. I was never diagnosed, and I was never, and I wasn't on pharmaceuticals. I was shocked. So I still can't even believe it, and it's been 2 years. So they put me in. So this is what happened. The cop came over and then left. And then my boyfriend and I left and went to the park to talk. And we were just talking, hanging out at the park, like just having our little couples time. This was before I found out that he had a kid and like all that stuff. Like I thought that he was like, you know, a real dude. So we're at the park chilling. Couple hours go by. We come back. It's like 9:30. And I go and I shower. And after I showered, my mom was sitting on the couch, and she's so messed up. Like, she really has no soul. And she was like, "Are you ready?" And I was like, "Ready for what?" And she said, "Well, they're here to pick you up." And I was like, "What do you mean they're here to pick me up?" Like, I didn't understand, because I was, you know, not doing anything. Like, it was just a regular stressful day for me. It was just another regular stressful day stuck in traffic for me. So I was like, "What do you mean?" So, they came upstairs, like 3 cops came upstairs into my bedroom, and they cuffed me. So now I'm cuffed with wet hair, no makeup, wearing my pajamas because I was like out of the shower getting ready to go to bed. They took me into the back of the car and drove me to the hospital, to the emergency room. And I was like looking down, crying, because I couldn't believe that this could happen. I didn't know what a 302 meant. And I didn't know that you could be arrested for sending a text message. So clearly, now that I had so much time to think about it, I now know that God was removing me from that situation and putting me and aligning me with where he wanted me to go next, which happened to be Philadelphia. And it happened to be working full-time, 6 days a week, and building my career. And so, essentially, I'm in the ER. They give me a bunch of magazines, and I'm on my cell phone. I had a cell phone at the time, and I'm on it texting my boss, being like, this just happened, like, I don't know what the deal is, like, this just happened. So just, you know, don't believe anything my mom says. She is completely lying and she framed me. So I let him know, and I let my best friend know at the time, because my best friend was going to cover my hours for while this whole thing was going on. So I'm in the ER, and they ask me a bunch of questions. Some guy walks in with a hook arm. Like, he didn't even have a hand. It was a hook. And he had a clipboard, and he was writing down his little description of what I was going through, and like for my case or whatever. So anyways, they take me. I had to sleep in the ER that night, which was horrible. They took a piss test. Everything came back fine. And they couldn't detect any pharmaceuticals because I wasn't on any. So the doctor, he had like black hair and bright blue eyes, and he looked me in my eyes and said, "You're not going anywhere." And I was just shocked. I was so shocked still, because it just wasn't true, you know, like none of it was true. So I was just like, I told them my side of the story, and I told them my life, and I told them everything. I was like, I'm a healthy person. I'm highly educated, successful, hardworking, etc., etc. Like, there's no reason for you guys to keep me here. You guys have no proof to keep me here. So they then put me into an ambulance the next morning, which was horrible. And they transferred me to a psych ward, an actual psych ward with adults that were actually crazy. Like, these people were actually insane, and they had real problems. Like, people were there for weeks and months. Like, one of the girl in my room was there for 7 weeks. This other guy practically lived there. This other guy had to be watched 24/7, couldn't go anywhere alone. And then one of the dudes would just pace up and down the hallway all day long, talking to himself. He would like scratch his head, and like he had all this dry skin, and like all of his dry skin was falling off. I was just so disgusted. There was like one normal person in there, and the rest were actually like clinically insane and like experiencing psychosis and just a nutcase. It was a nut house. And I was like, wow, this is next level. And so I was traumatized because I was framed, but I also felt horrible because Clearly, my boyfriend was fake as fuck. My mom was fake as fuck. And I really didn't have anybody to fight for me. Except for my dad. My dad is a lawyer, and he contacted the administration of the psych ward to tell them what really happened, and that my mom is evil, and she's actually psychotic. Like, if she would have, like, they should have he was joking around saying they should have taken her, because she wouldn't have been able to get out. She wouldn't have been discharged. They would have kept her, because she's actually crazy. You know what I mean? So I had an Indian doctor, and so God put this Indian doctor in there because he knew that I would get out quicker. And this is just me this is after I've replayed it over and over again in my head, all those sleepless nights, all those nights that I would cry myself to sleep because I just couldn't figure out why it was happening or why it had to happen. So I ended up being in there for 5 days. I got discharged at the earliest possible time. I went to every single meeting. I was overflowing with points because you get points when you participate. So I was like, fuck it. I'm raising my hand. Like, I'm doing this shit. Like, I'm doing everything I can to prove to you guys that I don't belong here and you need to let me go so I can get back to work. You know what I mean? My hair tie just broke. Oh my gosh. So essentially, I was there, and after I got out, I had to hire a constable to accompany me to go and let me take my own stuff out of my mom's house. And I moved my stuff into my best friend's house at the time. And we were working together, so it was like easy for us to just like move in with each other. And I moved into her basement, and I literally packed up all of my stuff on my own because you can't have any help. When you have a constable, you hire the constable to make sure that the person doesn't do anything. And then you have to do it yourself. Like there's rules to it, I guess, for when you're, for when you hire a constable. It looks so bad. Like, just don't judge me. I'm having some hair issues, as you can see. So basically, I moved into my friend's house. I was still dating that guy at the time. They discharged me and they let me go without putting me on any meds. I passed all the physical tests. I was discharged because my doctor was Indian and he believed me and he knew, because I told him that I was living in Nepal. I told him that I moved from Nepal to the US to help my sister with her wedding. And he said, "Oh, wow, why were you in Nepal?" And I said, "I was doing environmental research." And he said, "Wow, that's really interesting, like blah, blah, blah." So he asked me more and more questions, and he found out that I had been vegetarian almost my whole life. And he was like, "Wow, you must be really healthy." And I was like, "Yeah, exactly. I'm really healthy, really wholesome, natural, and you need to respect it and let me go. My dad had called your administration to let you guys know the real story, and you guys need to let me go." So when you get 302'd, though, it goes on your permanent record. So not only was she framing me psychologically, but she was trying to ruin my credibility and ruin everything that I had worked for. I went to college. She never went to college. She was so mad and jealous that I got into a really good school in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and that I was gonna, she just had so much negativity towards me, so much negative energy towards me, and I could never understand it. I never could understand what the point was of having kids if you were just gonna like feed them negativity and like frame them and give them a hard time. Like I really still don't understand it. So I packed all my stuff into a U-Haul, moved it to my friend's house, and I told my mom that day that I would never speak to her again. And that stands true. It's been 2 years. I'm talking no texts on birthdays, nothing, no Christmas time. She cut off all my sisters from me. She made them think that I was, a ravaging psycho. And that I was, I don't know. I really don't know, because I could never think that way. So, I moved into an apartment. I have really good credit, and I'm really responsible. So it was easy for me to find an apartment and move in. My boyfriend moved in and lived with me at the time until he ended up getting booked. See, God works in very serious ways, not mysterious. It's not really that mysterious. It's pretty serious though. He's very serious, and he eliminated all of the bad people. He eliminated my mom. He eliminated my boyfriend. He eliminated a lot of people, a lot of really gross people that were in my life that just didn't deserve to be there, and they were never meant to be there. I don't know why. So here I am today, really happy, really successful, really healthy, and I still don't have those people in my life, and I have been single for a while, really just enjoying my time, enjoying my money, and enjoying, the fruits of being a hard worker. Like I've really put in my work, so I don't mind splurging every once in a while. I don't mind, buying whatever I want to buy. I usually stick to buying whatever I want to buy food-wise, not really material-wise. Like, I try to minimize my material purchases as much as possible. But yeah, it really pushed me into a different phase of my life, and it's okay if you don't have family. It's okay if you don't have a boyfriend, or if you don't have a best friend. It is okay, and you're gonna be fine, as long as you stay focused and you know what's right in your heart. No one can take that away from you. Like, this bullshit 302 is still on my record. But I still have my job because the people that I work with know how I am, and they know the truth. And they themselves have been ostracized as well, so they know how it feels. And I can't stress it enough. Like, you have to stand in your righteous placement, and don't let anyone take it from you. And don't let anyone tell you how to live your life. Like, even if it's a doctor, I don't care. If it's a doctor, if it's a politician, if it's a teacher, if it's even a social worker, if it's anybody who's trying to dictate how you live your life and they don't have your best interest, just disregard it, just brush it off. These people have real problems, and I actually feel bad for these people because they turned their back on a loyal person, and my loyalty is not cheap. Like, when you break it, you broke it. It's done. It's gone. Like, to this day, that ex-boyfriend still hits me up, and he doesn't even live in this country anymore. He literally tries to hit me up and tell me that he loves me and all this bullshit. Like, they will talk so much shit. They have no boundaries. They have no filter. They don't care. So just stay in your righteous path and just know what's right in your heart, and no one can take that from you. And just because you have something on your record doesn't mean you are labeled by that. I'm talking about felonies. I'm talking about misdemeanors. I'm talking about the whole 9 yards. If there's something on your record, don't allow it to define who you are and to dictate how your next moves, you know? Like, I know so many guys who have been locked up and they're like, well, I can't get a real job because blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, that's an excuse. Try again. That's an excuse, because I have fucked up shit on my record. Not a felony and not a misdemeanor, but I have that 302, which means at one point I was labeled not safe for myself or others. That's a pretty serious thing. And it's a pretty serious lie also. So beware of the snakes, beware of the lies, and don't let them dictate your life, because you could have snakes sitting in your own family. And you could have snakes sitting around you telling you that they love you. Meanwhile, they're also trying to hurt you, take away your credibility, and damage your career. So just know that you're blessed, and know that you're going to be okay no matter what situation you're in. You will be getting out, and you will have a future, and you need to stay positive and stay true to yourself, because it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about you and your situation. People talk so much shit and they don't have anything themselves. People are so hypocritical these days. I feel bad for them. And I feel truly saddened that they ruined their life like this, and that they're ruining their energetic sequence because they are messing with their own fate. When you purposely plot and try and destroy somebody, I don't care if it's literal or figurative. I don't care if it's a fucking metaphor. You're still trying to plot and twist things and taint somebody. That is not going to fly. You're going to mess up your own energy by doing that, and you're going to take away your own blessings by doing that. So I'm just telling you that you need to stay righteous and push through any type of bullshit that you come up against, because people will resort to extremely low levels just to get to you, and they're not going to be successful. So you need to stand up for yourself and stand for what is the truth. And that's up against cops, doctors, lawyers, everything. I went to court over this bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an easy deal. And all I can say is that don't listen to anyone. Half these people don't know what they're talking about. There are 40-year-old people, 50-year-old people who are still so behind and so close-minded. And you need to liberate yourself from these labels and just continue on to your destiny. Don't allow anything to stand in your way. And I'm really serious about that. There are no excuses. I'm glowing now. I'm flowing. I'm making money. I'm really successful. I've gotten 3 promotions since then. I have people working under me. And I am definitely planning on leaving the country because I can't stand this American culture. But just know that if you don't have a family, and they don't care about you, it's okay, because you're not their kid, you're God's child. And when you're one of God's children, you will be watched over, and you will be blessed no matter what.